Today, on the Everett Ellison Show, we're going to talk about when the Democratic Party actually lost its mind. It wasn't just through accident or through osmosis. It was a plan. It was a planned takeover, and it was masterful. And we're going to talk about that today on the Everett Ellison Show. All right, let's get this thing started. You know, there's this idea that the Democratic Party just went crazy on its own. That it's just, it woke up one day and it was crazy. Well, they've always been a bit crazy. You know, had slaves from 1800 to 1860, the Confederacy from 1860 to 1865, where they tried to destroy the country. Then Jim Crow from 1865 to 1965 was just extra constitutionalism, killing people, raping women. You just name it, terrible things. It's who they are. And now they're into this transgenderism and aborting babies and climate change and open borders and taking your guns away and keeping God out of the public square. Just a brutal, terrible, terrible, terrible party. When did this happen? When did the Democratic Party go from one type of evil to another type of evil? It's almost like saying, okay, I've been killing only little girls, I'm gonna start killing little boys. When did you make the switch? I mean, you still kill people. It's just you just decided to stop killing one type and start killing another. That's the Democratic Party. When did they do that? That's the question. Well, I'm going to lay it down for you. All right. We're going to go all the way back to 1968. All the way back to 1968. Martin Luther King Jr. had started the Poor People's March. Well, he hadn't started. He started planning it. He's going all over the country telling people about it.
And they are the very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. And this is what we are faced with. And this is the reality. Now, when we come to Washington, in this campaign, we are coming to get our check.
This march was the brainchild of Stanley Levenson and Henry Wachtel, two Jewish communists who had decided to take the black community and use it as cannon fodder to press their agenda. Both of them extraordinarily rich. Black people didn't have anything. They put a lot of money behind King and the civil rights movement to press their agenda here in America. They both Russian agents, and they used the black community to just raise hell in America for the last 10 years. Burning up stuff, fighting, acting a fool, and trying to force the government into giving them things that they didn't earn. That's just basically it. So they've gotten the 1964 Civil Rights Act passed, and now they've got the 1965 Voting Rights Act passed. Well, they're mad about Vietnam now, and they want money from the government to give people stuff for not doing any work. That's it. That's what communism basically is. You either get money for not doing work, or you have a guaranteed job with a guaranteed wage that everybody makes the same. And the Poor People's March was about that. So Dr. King says, you know, they gave King instructions, Stanley Levenson, Henry Wachtel, two things. We want you to stop Vietnam. Why? Because the communists in Russia, they want to take over Vietnam and they want America out of the fight. America's sending money and troops to Vietnam. They want America out of that fight. You know, they've taken over most of Asia. They've taken over China. They've taken over half of Korea. Now they want Vietnam. And they're going for it, and the Russians are putting all of this money into it, and of course, their flying ointment is always the United States of America, and they want us out. And the way they do it, and the Russians know that the way you do it in America is by turning the people against the war. See, you're not allowed to do that in communist China. You're not allowed to do that in communist Russia. But you can do that in America. People can protest against the war in America. Isn't that amazing? You can't do that in Russia. They'll kill you for it. You can't do that in China. They'll kill you for it. Now, in World War II, you couldn't do it. That's why we won World War II. If we had those same rules in World War II, we would have lost it. I mean, they would have just sent cameras to Germany or sent them to Japan, and they would have sent the pictures back to America, and we'd have said, get out of there. Would have been over with. But you couldn't do it before 1945. You can do it now, and the communists knew our laws better than we did, and they took full advantage of them. So, Dr. King's activated. in Vietnam, break the bank of the government by forcing the government to give people stuff that they didn't work for, nor that they earned. And that was the Poor People's March. The budget of the United States of America, the American government during that time, was about $120-something billion. King and his boys said they wanted $30 billion of that money. That's basically a quarter of the whole U.S. budget. They wanted it for guaranteed health care, guaranteed jobs, guaranteed food, guaranteed housing. That's what they wanted. And King said, we're going to go to Washington, we're going to shut down the city until you give it to us. Well, King got shot in Memphis about a month before the Poor People's March took place. Now, here's the thing. I've heard black people say my whole life, the reason why they killed Martin Luther King Jr. was to stop that Poor People's March, because they knew that if King got up there to D.C. and the Poor People's March took place, and the United States government was going to give up all that money to help poor people. The 1964 Civil Rights Act cost them nothing, and the 1965 Civil Rights Act, Voting Rights Act, didn't cost them nothing. But this Poor People's March is going to make them have to pay up. And they killed King to stop it from happening. There's only one problem with that argument. They still had the Poor People's March. Didn't know that, did you? Yep, they still had the Poor People's March. The Poor People's March started May 12th in Washington, D.C. Now understand, Dr. King had just got killed April the 4th, and they had this march about a month and a week after he died. So this was in the planning. And in this march, they had this little place called Resurrection City. Y'all can look it up. It's a real thing. Resurrection City was a place where they brought about 3,000 poor people. Y'all have seen the mall up in D.C., right? Where they have the Lincoln Memorial and they have the Washington Monument. That space in that area is called the mall. They had 3,000 people camp out there for 6 weeks. And I'm going to tell you something. Just like every inner city in America that Democrats run, Resurrection City was messed up. Now, history's going to try to tell you, oh, they were cool. Resurrection City was messed up. The suckers had rats. They was fighting. It was dope. Man, it started raining, and they didn't have no sidewalks, and mud was like up to here. They had Jesse Jackson and Ralph Abernathy, King's best friend, that took over, that was leading the march. They would leave Resurrection City at night and go and get five-star hotels somewhere. They wouldn't stay there. Coretta Scott King came out there to see the city. They put her on that. She couldn't walk through the mud, so she had to find some guys. She had to get on their backs, and she had to be carried through the mud on these guys' backs. That's how bad Resurrection City was. Andrew Young said it took the equivalent of today's dollars about $244,000 a day to run that rat hole. And this was them in the mall in D.C. Just an eyesore. Up there begging for handouts. And the government knew how to handle King by then. Just wait them out. Sooner or later, things going to get so bad, a lot of them going to get up and they're going to leave. And sure enough, the best of them got up and said, hell with this. And they started rolling out of Resurrection City. And by the time the 6 weeks permit ran out, there was about 500 people there. And of course, the government told them it's time for y'all to go, and they didn't want to go. So they sent about 1,000 riot police down there and ran them all out. Clean up Resurrection City. So all of y'all talking about the Poor People's March did not happen and that they killed King to stop it. No, you're wrong. I'm just giving you the facts. Resurrection City, Poor People's March happened. So why would they kill King to stop the Poor People's March when the Poor People's March still happened? I mean, King was good at this kind of stuff. He went down, he did some type of ghetto cleanup thing. And him and Coretta went and moved in one of them old ghetto apartments, stayed there in the daytime, left at night. Next thing you know, they was out of the city, gone. He just went there for a photo op. He put on some overalls and cleaned up some garbage, let the camera see him, and he leave. And then we're going to do the same thing with Resurrection City. So you had Resurrection City, you had the Poor People's March. Fanned out. But you had something else coming down in the summertime. So Bobby Kennedy got shot while they were in the city. They brought Bobby Kennedy's coffin through Resurrection City. And so they had the Democratic Party National Convention in Chicago. This when things got rough. It was the same old Democratic Party it had always been. A bunch of racists, a bunch of Klan members, a bunch of malcontents. And the hippies and everybody tried to take over. And Mayor Daley wasn't having it. Mayor Daley said, nope, we ain't having this. So they had this group called the Youth International Party. They called them the Yippies. The Yippies were headed by Abby Hoffman. He ended up killing himself. And a guy by the name of Jerry Rubin. They were two leftists, two communists. They're dope and shooting up and all kind of stuff. Anti-Vietnam, basically. So they went there and they tried to take over the convention. And Mayor Daley, who was one of those old school Democrats, just sent the hard hats and the police. They beat the hell out of them. I mean, just beat the living hell. I mean, just whooped their asses all up and down the street.
Members of the Youth International Party, Yippies they called themselves, converged on Chicago. They said they were there to protest the war, poverty, racism, and other social ills. Some of them were also determined to provoke a confrontation, to draw attention from the convention to the streets. Mayor Richard Daley vowed to keep it peaceful, even if it took force to keep the peace. He was backed by 12,000 police, 5,000 National Guardsmen, 7,500 regular Army troops. Hundreds of marchers and dozens of policemen were injured. Restraint was absent on both sides. This was later called a police riot. During that frightful week, the demonstrators repeatedly tried to march on the site of the convention, the stockyards. Repeatedly, they were forced back. But even inside the convention hall, the virus of violence was pervasive. Dan Rather and Walter Cronkite of CBS News.
Take your hands off of me.
Dan Rather.
Unless you intend to arrest me, don't push me, please.
And the hippies, they try to make y'all think today that these hippies were somebody to be desired. No, they were really nasty. Them suckers didn't bathe. They talking about make love, not war, which means just having sex with everybody. I mean, Charles Manson and them came out of that crew. And that's when they all died after Charles Manson. They were just nasty. And this is what they would say. They would scream in loudspeakers to the Democratic Party National Convention. This is what they say. They said, we are dirty, we are smelly, we are slimy and foul. We will piss, we will S-H-I-T, and we will F-U blank in public. We will be constantly stoned or tripping on every day known to man. That was their slogan. We are dirty, smelly, slimy, and foul. We will piss and S-H-I-T and F-U blank in public. We will be constantly stoned or tripping on every day known to man. These were the guys trying to take over the Democrat Party convention in 1968. And Mayor Daley let loose on them and towed their behinds up. They tried to run into the convention. He beat them up, had the police run them out, had about 20,000 cops and National Guard there, had barbed wire around the convention. And so when he ran them all out, and they was all bleeding and crying and snotting, and they were screaming, "The whole world is watching. The whole world is watching." Well, Saul Alinsky, the guy that wrote Rules for Radicals, was there. And he told them, after they sitting there crying and stuff, he said, "Y'all got three choices here," because he was part of organizing all this. Saul said, "You can either find yourself a wall and start crying, a wailing wall and cry. Go start throwing bombs. If you start throwing bombs, you're going to turn everybody over to the GOP. Or you can come back in 1972 in 4 years, and you be the delegates." Yep. And they decided to organize and come back in 1972. And they came to the convention in 1972. And these suckers knew the rules, and they knew how to delegate, and they knew how to do all this stuff better than anybody. That they got some lawyers, and they knew how to rock it. You hear me? They knew the rules so very well that Mayor Daley, the one that beat them over the head 4 years earlier, he came with the Illinois delegation. Oh no, these guys knew the rules so great that they sat back and they questioned whether or not Daley's people had his credentials correct. The Rules Committee said he didn't. They ran Daley out of the convention and set Jesse Jackson and a Chicago alderman by the name of William Singer in their place. And they had Jesse and Singer determine who the delegates for the Illinois convention was going to be. They ran Daley. The same Daley that ran them out of the convention 4 years before, they ran Daley out of this one in 1972. And in this convention, their plank was feminism, gay rights, busing, welfare, and the right to be different. That was when these crazy jokers took over the Democrat Party.
Open debate exposed for millions of Americans thoughts, ideas, proposals which had for decades been swept into the dark rooms of their culture, and there locked up. The debates were wide-ranging and sometimes challenging. The New York Times reported there were divisive platform battles over Vietnam, abortion, welfare, and court-ordered busing to end racial discrimination. The eventual platform was probably the most liberal one ever adopted by a major party in the United States. For example, in 2020, Elle magazine discussed a proposed Rights of Women plank. In matters relating to human reproduction, each person's right to privacy, freedom of choice, and individual conscience should be fully respected, consistent with relevant Supreme Court decisions. The plank represented a political lightning rod. The New York Times reported that the McGovern supporters were convinced that if the pro-abortion minority plank was adopted, it would brand the South Dakota senator an extremist. Moreover, there was a concern that McGovern opponent George Wallace was pressing delegates to support the plank specifically to embarrass McGovern. The Times writes, the McGovern forces were moving around the floor, urging delegates to vote against the plank. In the end, they won, and it was jettisoned. Feminist delegate Gloria Steinem felt betrayed. Near hysteria, Elle writes, Gloria burst into tears before the television cameras and rushed down the aisle. And these debates were not just showing party divisions, they were taking up a great deal of time. White rights, delegates, leadership, press, commentators all doggedly held on and on at the convention hall as the philosophy of open politics dedicated that everyone have a say. And over time, slowly the weight of exhaustion pressed in. One 4:15 a.m. vote by the Kentucky delegation read, the Kentucky vote is 36 yes, 10 no, and 1 asleep and not voting. The Birmingham New York Press and Sun Bulletin reported that all told there are 20 minority challenges to the platform, ranging from Wallace's anti-busing substitute to gay liberation's plank endorsing sexual freedom. According to Democrat General Counsel, including all the minority proposals will take 10 to 13 hours.
1972. That's your history lesson. Richard Nixon beat them in the largest landslide in history. Destroyed him. George McGovern destroyed him. But those jokers weren't dead yet. They did Watergate on Nixon. Got Nixon out. Put Jimmy Carter in. And in 4 years, Ronald Reagan took out Carter. The American people still weren't buying their foolishness and their crap. The only way they can win is cheat. It's like how they got Trump out this last time, cheating. And they haven't learned the thing. They're still trying all of this foolishness. They lost behind. See, Barack Obama lied when he ran. He wasn't running on no gay rights plank. He wasn't running on no abortion plank or the feminism plank. No, he wasn't doing any of that. People thought Barack Obama was a moderate. He lied. Joe Biden told the truth. You know, he lied the first time he lied and got Trump beat. But then the second time he ran, because he had dementia, he told the truth. And they lost. Whenever they tell the truth, they lose. So they went crazy in 1972. They haven't gotten any sense since 1972. We're going to beat them again in 2028. We're going to beat them in 2026. And we're going to beat them in perpetuity because America knows that they are godless, they are immoral, they are an insane, nasty party. What Abby Hoffman and the yippies said about them way back then, we are dirty, we are smelly, we are slimy, and foul. We will piss, we will shit, and we will f-blank in public. We will be constantly stoned or tripping every day known to man. Those are the people that took over the party. Those are the people that run it today. The Nancy Pelosi's and the Jesse Jacksons and the Chuck Schumers and all those old perverts, that's where they came from. This is where your insanity comes from. This is where your stupidity all comes from. Them. This is how you learn to defeat them. This is how you know. You defeat them on your own terms. You have to know their history. You have to know who they are. You cannot defeat your enemy unless you know them. Now you know them. Now you know where they came from. Now you know they've always been evil. Now you know why the conservatives left the Democratic Party, then the good conservatives came and went to the Republican Party, and the old no-good racists still stayed in the Democratic Party. Then none of them leave. Fritz Hollins, Stennis, Eastman, Bull Connor, George Wallace, all of them stayed. You know what? Power. The worst stayed. The good conservatives left and came to the other party. The worst Democrats and the worst people in America gravitated to that party, and they're there right now. The Republican Party wouldn't have those no good, slimy racists in their party. When Strom Thurmond left the Democratic Party and came to the Republican Party in 1965, they told him all that racist stuff you doing, Strom, got to go. And it went. Strom never uttered another racist word. He was one of the first people up there to hire a black staffer. He voted to put Clarence Thomas on the Supreme Court. And if you want to ask about Strom Thurmond, ask the black people in South Carolina about him. They loved him. But he had to turn away his racist ways. Yeah, he had a black outside child. But that was when he was a Democrat. After he became a Republican, Strom Thurmond's actions were exemplary. But man, you can still say the N-word, and you can still cry, and you can still bellyache, and you can still be a victim in the Democratic Party. We don't have them in the Republican Party. The only people who are victims over here are the children who are aborted by their mothers, and the small children who are blocked in the public educational system, and the children who are sexually groomed and who are physically mutilated by their parents. The children are the victims on this side. No grown-up. When you become a man, you're no longer a victim. You fight. So you see the transformation of this evil institution from one branch of evil to another into a godless, hippie, feminist, LGBTQ, climate change, open border, sex-free, sex fiend, sex crazy party. A bunch of weirdos running it, then a bunch of weirdos running it now. Nothing is new under the sun. So I hope you've enjoyed this little history lesson today. And I'm going to keep bringing this stuff to you because I'm here to wake you up. Hope I did you some good here today. So show me again for another edition of the Vince Everett Ellison Show. All right, friends, Vince Everett Ellison is here. I want you to go to my website. And on my website, you're going to see a lot of great stuff, man. You're going to see that we got t-shirts, we got caps. You got my books, my documentaries. You got all kinds of stuff on VinceSpeaksTruth.com. Go there. We're dropping new t-shirts. We're dropping new merchandise. My new book, The End of Tolerance, is there. The End of Tolerance. Make sure you get it. Make it #1. If you got my first 3, get The End of Tolerance. It's just as good. And it's telling us we have to end our tolerance with these leftists, these Democrats. We no longer allow them to sexually groom our children. We can no longer allow them to castrate little boys and call them little girls, run God out of the public square, take away our guns, take away our sovereignty. No longer allow it. So go on VinceSpeaksTruth.com. That is VinceSpeaksTruth.com. Hit merchandise. You'll see the t-shirts. You'll see the caps. You'll see the books. You'll see the documentaries. You'll see it all. And let's keep this ball rolling. God bless you.